Okay.
Okay, so the 6 equations Einstein grabbed that refine down, part of it refines down to E equals mc squared. In other words, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And people don't ask the questions. I mean, yeah, that's wonderful. You have an equation that explains it, but what is mass? What is energy? What is it exactly? Yes, you're equating them. The reason speed of light squared is because as light goes out, it increases, the wavefront increases by the square of the distance. The energy decreases, of course, because it's going out and it's spreading on is the inverse square of the distance. That's why in a lot of equations you see 1/2, because if we're going to integrate that and go back to the original, or in other words, flatten the curve, as they say in calculus, where you're integrating and taking the area under the curve in a moment of time, you're flattening the curve, you're taking time to zero. That's in the moment. You're utterly in the moment. You even do that in martial arts or meditations, or sometimes when you're doing things, you focus down so profoundly on the moment you're in of what you're doing that you go into the moment itself, and you're in that time where the curve is actually flat at that small point. So x squared becomes 2x, and a non-variable such as x squared plus 2. That's why you see in calculus it says x 2x. You integrate it, goes x squared plus c, because the 2 is to a power of 1, and that goes away. Anything that's to a power of 1 goes away. So you don't know if there was a static constant after that. And so when you're taking this, people are, not realizing you've equated a couple, 3 things you don't really know what they are. What is light actually even? So you've equated them, but what are they? And how does that relate to magnetism, for example? So what Nassim Haramein did is what's called an eloquent equation. He refined all 6 equations down to a singular equation. I invite everybody to go look at his Resonance Academy and follow him if you're interested in this kind of stuff. He's very, very phenomenally excellent in this area. He got what's called an eloquent equation because it's no longer calculus, it's algebra. And in that, when you're taking the differential, the x squared actually, you get it back, but as a differential, you often get, the square becomes 1/2 out in front, like 1/2 acceleration times squared equals distance, the formula for the acceleration of an object falling in a gravitational field. On Earth, that is essentially 32 feet or 9.8 meters per second squared, because each second it has the original velocity it gained, plus it's continuing to have that in a vacuum. It will continue to accelerate, but in airbound environment, you have wind resistance, of course. So when we get down, what is mass? You're going to that torsion field. It's the torsion, and as you get it more dense together, it creates a greater effect. So when they first, for example, started looking at the atom's nucleus, where hydrogen, you only have 1 proton, but every element thereafter, like helium is 2, lithium is 3, beryllium, hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon being the 6th would have 6 protons. You see that you have all of these particles. The neutrons are neutral, good word for them, neutral, not neutron, but the proton, positive, it has all positive forces. Each particle is a positive, so they would repulse each other because like forces repel, opposites attract. And so why doesn't it explode? That force is called the Coulomb force, and it's a very, very powerful force. So they found that the binding force, what they called it, not knowing anything better at the time, it's holding the nucleus together, really strong, overcoming that, the strong nuclear force. But what it actually is what Nassim found was doing the equations when you get down to it at the very center of the atom or of a proton is a singularity, a little tiny black hole. It's a infinitely small singularity. And of course, that has infinite gravity. So you have a gravity force of gravity going back into that singularity, which gravity being a push, as they tell you, it's a pull. Of course, they invert everything. It's actually a wave, and waves do not pull on you as they go by. They push on you. So it's pushing into the atom, pushing against the Coulomb force or the repulsion force of the light particles. So it's pushing everything together. It's why you're on the surface of the Earth, because you have a planet beneath you that's attenuating the push from the stars. You have the same amount of atmosphere above and below you, so that's equal. So the only thing that can release and cause that wave to be outbound is to destroy the nucleus of the atom and cause that force to refract back outwards. And the only things that do that, of course, are matter-antimatter reactions, the breaking of the atom, in other words, known as fission, or putting it, back together, which you're creating that force to be going in different directions, which is fusion. And then you also have high energy plasma reactions like lightning bolts or the surface of the sun or a sun. And so in that case, you're breaking the nucleus of atoms apart, and that energy goes outwards. And so those are the only ways you can do that. And the only things, planets don't typically do any of those things. So planets are a gravity well, because the gravity that's being released by the stars doing that is pushing you equal in space in every direction. So you seem to be weightless. You're not really weightless. You still have mass. But the gravity on a planet is the push from below is attenuated by the planet. So the push from above is greater. And, people go, well, then how come in the hollow earth you still have gravity holding you up on the inside? Because you have a sun inside there, too, that's pushing you slightly. It's not nearly as big as ours, but you have a sun that's pushing you slightly. The attenuation, of course, from both sides would be nearly equal. But that sun's attenuating it from one side, and then additionally, it's pushing you up against the inside crust. So it's understanding these things. That what is that push? That push is the word of God. When it comes out, it's light. When it goes back, it's going in as the square. So it's going in. If we look at how many directions it's heading back in, so light squared coming out, but going back in, it's going in height, width, depth, and time. So that's actually a factor of 8. So you have 8 times the square, or 8 times 8, which is 64. So the speed of gravity is 64 times the speed of light. They've taken that out when you do a search engine. They now say it's the speed of light. They're lying, because how do they know that it takes light to get 8 minutes approximately from the sun? Well, because where it seems to be gravitationally, which seems to be, they thought gravity was an instantaneous effect across space. Because essentially where the gravity seems to be coming only 8 minutes away is precisely where it actually is. And you can tell how long it takes to go that distance, because it seems to be there gravitationally, but it's there 8 minutes later when you see the light at that location. So they gauged it, and they know the speed of light, generally speaking. It does change its speed slightly through certain situations, fields, energy, etc. And so as it returns to God, it's going 64 times to that singularity, and that's one singularity at the center of every proton atom everywhere. And so it's the same singularity, because that's God. That's the throne of God, and God is everywhere. That's how God is everywhere. God emanates. All things go from and to, back forever and out forever from that one singularity. And that's also why you have quantum entanglement. Everything's tied to the throne of God. Everything entangles everything. That's why the idea you could do something and get away from it You can't.
So Jean, if I can just take a pause right there. So you just went through the whole process of explaining the quantum physics, if you will, and for the in reference to my question of the med beds. So that technology exists, obviously, or else you're channeling something here. Can you just clarify, does this technology exist today, and does the military have this
So that's
technology?
where I'm headed.
Yeah.
I'm headed there. So this torsion field, you have a specific amount of that torsion field that you have chosen to be you. In other words, what part of the Word of God, the light of the Holy Spirit, have you chosen to encompass, and how have you chosen to encompass it in this lifetime that is Janine? So if we look at that, then that's how you chose when you came in to your body as a soul to manifest yourself through your choice of how to be. And so that has a specific quantum signature. That quantum signature and amount of the torsion fields, the little individual units, are unique to you. They're absolutely you. You're absolutely unique. If you
It's a
start to
blueprint,
change,
a
it's
blueprint.
your torsion field, quantum field, soul blueprint. It's your soul blueprint. That's who your soul, what your soul, how your soul is. And if you start to change how you make choices and how you feel about things and do things specifically, it changes that torsion field. And you will go to another universe that matches that basic overall torsion structure. In other words, you'll change timelines. And that you is now different than the you that didn't change, this you over here. So there's infinite magnitudes of yourself, different magnitudes of that torsion field, in a positive torsion or a negative torsion or service to others, service to self, going across the timelines. All of them part of you. You're your own oversoul. In the case of a human being, they're individually sold. So they are contained within the oversoul of all of the infinite choices that you've made. For dogs, for example, they are at first part of an oversoul until they become individualized. And then they notice and realize they have a name, and they have, they're not part of every dog on earth, the pack of dogs and all of that. That's the way animals are. They are oversold with the species. And then as you become an individual, you have to be separate because you are now an individual field, and all of your separate choices are still you. So that as you go up density, what you're doing is the primary other 6 choices you've made that have significantly related to this creation, you combine with them. So you're learning, you go, well, I wish I could have, should have, had, did that. You did. You did do that. There's a you that did that. You will combine with those main ones that you need to learn the most from as you go up from 3D to 4D. You combine together so that there's 7 yous in one body. You combine and meld and go, well, that's what living a life, having making that choice like that. And then as you go from there to 5th density, you get more dense with you. And you learn 7 more that have learned already, a total of 7 others. You have 49 different main choice that you can learn from and understand. And that's the process of ascension.
Okay, I'm going to take it back just a little bit. So there's somebody out in the chat that
hold on, not yet done. Just give me one more second. Okay. So the med bed, what it does is it reaches in and feels your knows it's able to reach your quantum substrate torsion field that is your soul. And it has exact blueprint of how your legs were, fingers were, everything of how you were at each and every age. So you can then, it can then go to that energy field, and anything that does not match that field now, revibrate that so that you can regrow a leg, you can retrogress your age. It will bring that energy at that time that you select to grow you back to how you were at that time. So there you go.
Is that permanent? Is that a permanent? So like if I want to go back to something in that is healthy, let's say at the age of 20, right? It goes back, it gets that blueprint, it finds that information, and I'm now 60. So do I have a 20-year-old arm?
You have a 20-year-old body.
Oh, the whole enchilada.
Mm-hmm. And because you had your arm at that time, if you did, you'll have your arm back. And that's why they have people that in war, they have a leg blown off or something in a minefield or something. They still feel it. It's called the phantom leg.
Mm-hmm.
They feel it because that energy field is always there. That's why in Kirlian photography, they were taking pictures of leaves that they cut the ends off, and the end of the leaf was still there in the energy field of the leaf. You know, doing extremely high voltage into a leaf with essentially no amperage, and they caught it with certain type of, I'll just make it kind of basic, although it's not exactly this, a camera that can catch that high energy, and they see this auric picture, or in other words, the fourth density level, the astral energy layer, the first astral energy layer of that leaf, and it still had the rest of the leaf there. And then over time, as the leaf accepts the fact that that's there, or a person accepts the fact that they, okay, I don't have a leg and that's my life, that will go away. But if they never accept that, they will always have a phantom leg for the rest of their life. But that energy in the substrate of first, second density, it's always there. So you can always regrow that leg by putting the person's genetic structure, physical, mental, emotional, genetic structure, back to that structure. And you can then also choose to keep their memories intact. So you could be 60-year-old with all your memories and everything intact of all your experiences at 60, but your body would be back to how you were at 20.
Fantastic. Can I make a couple statements, or are you going to continue?
I'm good now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, I've got a couple of people out here. One says quantum entanglement. Yes, that's how the remote life healing works as well. It's a big statement from somebody who has this technology. I think that's from Pam Elliott's. And then the hula hoop out here.
Well, let me comment on the first one. So quantum is entanglement, and it's through the vibration. So when they first started bombarding the particle, what they wanted to do is analyze them and figure out what's making things up. So like they have quarks that have 6 basic types in 3 different flavors. It sounds crazy. I know that's how they define it. Up, down, special, charmed. It's some kind of TV sitcom. So, but what you're doing is they're saying, okay, particles have an amount of charge, negative, positive, down to 0. They have amount of a volume, down to 0. They have amount of mass, down to 0. They have an amount of angular velocity, also have an amount of torsion. And that amount of torsion, the certain packet vibration of that torsion creates a vibration. And even though the torsion's different, all of the vibration in this universe, that vibrational the quantifying of that packet when they measured it was the same for every particle, every person, every planet, everywhere in this universe. It's what delineates the difference between the universes is that quantum packet vibration. So that explains what she was essentially heading towards, I believe. I feel. Go ahead.
Fantastic. I hope you guys are staying with Gene on this, because it goes back to my show that I did, my last show, whether or not Janine believed in these med beds, and he's explaining the back end, the technology, and more so the universal laws behind it is what I'm picking up. So I have somebody else out here, and her name is Hula Hoop. So she says, what if you were born without something, as her daughter was born without a left eye and no mouth or a nose? Is that something that, and I believe her daughter is an adult at this point, she doesn't have a way to communicate with her, this technology coming in, is that something that is, you said, I think that you answered this already when I said if you don't have an arm, is that correct?
So this comes into what I was actually heading to anyway, that there's dangers within the med bed. systems, which is if you could do this in that situation. If you do not do it, they would never have that, because if they're born that way, that's how they chose to be. But you can take a frequency of somebody that has that and overlay it. It's called heterodyning, or like frequency modulation. I'm modulating the original frequency with another frequency. I can take, and look at everybody that does have that and overlay that frequency. The danger here comes in, and that's why, the med beds you see out there right now are not the ones in the space program. They're heading towards that, but you could put frequencies in there that could hijack somebody, that could do real serious entrainment, enslavement, real bad things to a person. You could give them, they can actually, we know now, I was saying this 30 years ago, and people would go, what? They can give you AIDS with an energy, with a frequency, because it has a frequency, and if you hit you with that frequency and you're resonant and choose it, you would get AIDS without ever being exposed to anybody, just that frequency. Everything has a frequency to it. So does having an eye or an arm that you weren't born with. They can resonate and put that frequency as a carrier into your frequency, and they can get you to have that. They could even get you to be part cow or part pig, because that has a frequency. That's what they were doing in Atlantis through black magic, blood sacrifice, and that has a frequency. And then they were using it to cross between species and get other frequencies, carry that in through those blasphemies to the laws of God, and make pig people, or bull people, or all cut like the satyrs and all of these creatures that are not mythological. Those are carryovers from the time of Atlantis, and that's why God ended the place.
This takes me to Flim, or Fly Me is actually saying, but I heard you had to have a good reason to go back to 20 or 30 years. So you guys keep putting these type of questions out there, because Gene is basically maybe going to give you the correct information to what you guys may have heard out there. What do you think about that, Gene?
Well, when they get this technology out, it's not just you do. They're going to look, think of the power you have with people when you do this. You better hope who's ever using it is an extremely high functioning service to God person, because they can do some incredibly powerful things to you. Because, okay, what if I would like to be telekinetic? And they do have these programs in the Space Force. Yeah, well, that's a nice power to have, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, because you could get telekinetic to where you could think of somebody's energy structure and go to their carotid artery or something, or go and put your hands around their neck and choke them to death, and you're not even there, because you're telekinetic and you're moving that force upon their neck. You can kill from a distance. That's an issue. Or what if you're telepathic? You want that. So you go into somebody's head. There's cost for these things with the throne of God for using gifts this way, and it is massive. But telepathic, you go into somebody's mind and have them commit suicide? Yeah. So, this is what the skull on skull people are doing, is this kind of stuff, is how they have bets on the people that they gang stalk. It's a gang of these police things, or different areas, or CIA offices, how long it'll take them to get this person to kill themselves. They do that. So you could literally be giving abilities that could be quite harmful to others or quite helpful. Depends on the nature of you and the nature of the people doing it. So this is was going on in the Dark Fleet and some of the dark stuff, and so there's a lot of responsibility that comes here. Additionally, those doing it have a responsibility that they're doing it and they've analyzed that person very, 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 very well, extremely well. You know how the person is. You know the type. Are they an unconditionally serving, compassionate, loving, and giving person? Or is there something that if they get pissed off enough, they'll do something incredibly wrong to somebody else?
Okay, fantastic. Somebody else is just making a statement, says that reminds them of the movie The Fly. You guys, please put your questions out there. I think Buckshot has one. It says his concern is people thinking it's a quick fix. They still need to do the inner work and not continue to destroy their bodies.
Precisely. Additionally, choices that, everything that happens to you is a choice. People think there's such a thing called an accident. I accidentally cut my finger off. No, that was a choice. And that's a choice. And it happened because you're misaligned in your service to God. So when you're misaligned, a missile is misaligned with its target. It's going here. It's meant to go there. You're meant to go to this level of service with God when you were created, and you get off course. Well, how's God get you back on course? How do you get a missile back on course? You get input. Input at first will become a feeling like, don't do that. That comes through the intuition or the third chakra, which is attached to the throne of God, which is the gut. You get a gut feeling. Don't do that. Do that. Don't say that. Do say that. Go here. Don't go there. Those are intuitional nudges from God. And then most people go, well, that, what my friends think, if I do that or say that or do this or go there, you get into interpreting the word of God. You don't interpret God. You just do it. Or you just say it, or you just don't do it or say it, depending on whatever it is, whatever God told you to do. So you rationalize it and you say, well, I don't want to. Well, then you're going to get the next level, which means you get a ringing in your ear and God starts telling you, right ear is feminine and manifests life on earth. And so it ties to the earthly realm at 3D, and it ties to your relationships as a woman or with other women or with women in general. And then left is the masculine side. And that's, this reaches spiritual energy and helps to create children and gives spiritual input and all of that. And it's the support system for the 3D from beyond the 3D. So you see why the world's so screwed up right now. So
yeah.
then,
and Jean, if I could just make a comment, I heard you make a statement on one of the shows that you've been on. I'm like a stalker when I see you on there. I want to hear everything that you have to say on other channels. But I think you were the one that said, this is the time to make it right now. Choose a side. Is that correct?
Precisely. And that's why we're seeing a time. For example, people said, why warp speed? Because in general, the human race has chosen to follow something that they should not have in the first place ever. They should have taken some responsibility with themselves, with their family, with their children, and they chose wrong. They chose stupid. They chose darkness. They chose, I'll just do it because I'll believe that these people have my best interest. Did you even look at it or research it at all? Or even contemplate if that makes any sense to you at all? You just believe the authorities? If that's your children, are you absolutely sure? If that's your life, are you absolutely sure? Well, I think so. Well, it's my job. Well, it's also your life. You don't have a job if you're dead, other than coming back to do what you need to do if God gives you another chance. It's like, and then, or to, push up daisies or be ash on the wind. So,
yeah.
Or go and be deassembled at the throne of God, So it's like, you better be darn sure with your choices at that kind of level. That's why that happened. That's after the ringing in your ears, the next thing is the hammers come out and you have an accident. Oh, I hurt my foot. Which foot and what were you doing and thinking at the time? You were off course. In what way? How you walk, how you stand with God physically on earth or spiritually, what side, all of that. And, you can see it. And those hammers can get big enough, like that decision, to take you off the planet permanently, to take you out of this life.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's, and thank you for that clarification, because, I sit on I don't like sitting on fences at all. It's just that I haven't made a decision about anything. I heard so much, like, if I could just say it, bullshit coming down the pike without any explanation behind it. So that's why, if I asked a question and you would think that this was brought up 3 or 4 years ago when we first heard about it. But then in between that, there was a lot of, I would say, deep state people out there trying to give everybody hopium, and swaying them and still doing the mind control, things that they were doing out there. And right now we are in a very intense energy, in a time that more of this is going to be coming after us. So when you say that we've got to pick a side and choose exactly and stay in that, no matter how much chaos that we go through, turn off the television, turn off the news, because it's just a circus show that's being played out. But that is our time to stay centered in the eye of the chaos and go within and just hold on to who we truly are. Each and every one of you know who you are. We've all have been through things. We've all have to forgive ourselves. Once you forgive ourselves, it becomes a lot easier. And then all of a sudden you start to really know, if I could say this, Gene, their blueprint. Is that correct?
Yes. So the problem is, if you're watching mainstream media and news, the algorithms are so deep, it's pretty darn hard for most people. I even had a person that was awake when I met them. When I woke up way back, was in line behind me when I was getting ready to go and talk to Dr. Coleman. And that person later on got really into watching some things like, different Forged in Steel and those kind of things. That's mainstream. That's not real, but they say it's a reality show, but it's not. It's rigged. And so that has tons of algorithms. It's like video gaming. The algorithms are off the chart there, and they're entraining you, and they're hooking you into the internet, exactly what the jab does. It hooks you into the internet to where literally it creates a virtual you at the quantum level. It's pulling your quantum signature into the web, into the dark web. It doesn't just pull all your thoughts, feelings, emotions, genetic structure, pull it at that information, blueprint, and put you in there. It literally puts you in there. You wind up losing yourself into it. I know within different people, they have had people who, a guy got into it so heavy, they have these virtual lives you can live in there, in games where you have a virtual life and you can have sex with, pick your avatar with a gorgeous hunk of a guy or a beautiful woman or something, and they wound up losing their wife and their kids and everything. And you're that far gone, you're not paying attention to your life that far. That's pretty serious. This person I know actually did get the jab, and they're awake and they're retired, and they didn't need to. For no reason. I'm like, why? Well, I just, they can't really tell you, because they're entrained by that box in there, or that screen in there. That thing is downloading and uploading in you constantly. That's why they call it tell-a-vision. It tells you what to envision.
Yeah, you are correct. Some of my shows I was doing for about 6 months, I was actually reading the Gateway Pundit, and when I reflect back on that, I was a little bit more of an angrier person in the inside. I stopped doing that, and I just pray every single day for me to be a conduit, to be able to be something, to be able to speak the word that people want to hear, have God come through me and just be able to communicate whatever it is that I need to communicate. And I'll tell you what, Gene, I know this to be my truth, that there are times where I'm just getting downloads of information, and I'm starting to connect the dots a lot more once I removed that whole gimmick thing of reading the Gateway Pundit and all those stories that are out there. It basically will allow people to realize their intuition and how strong it is, and rely more on that at this particular time. And it's like it is the most awesome thing that anyone can experience.
Absolutely. So
Let's see here. There's somebody that's making has a question. It says, if you don't mind, if we could just kind of grab one more of these. Hi, Jean. We are going to get information on the med beds when we go to the RV centers and make our appointment in a later date. What can we do for family that has cancer? Any natural remedies? Thank you.
no, mixing apple and oranges. RV centers are not places where you go to get your med bed assignment. And that's something, because that's selective. Not everybody would need one. I mean, if you're 21 years old or 22, would you need one? If you're like I was at 29, I mean, I don't want to regress myself. I'm phenomenal. I'm way better at 29 than I was at 21. By the time I got to 39, I was phenomenal physically, where I was with my martial arts and all that. I would not want to have been 21 again, because my fitness level, my abilities, my coordination, and that's how it used to be is the older you got, you took the cholesterol coming in and you were adding the soft cholesterol, which is, brain material. A lot of that's the dendrites and that, and the high density stuff is the sheaths on the nerves. You're getting faster, more precise with your movements, more coordinated. And then, we are programmed in, they've manipulated our program at a base level so that it starts to fall apart later. So that's called getting old. That's not natural. That was created into us once they hacked our genome and dropped us down from our original genetic makeup. And so not everybody wants that. So you go to a center where you're going, if you have cash in coin and you want to refund that, that's what that's for. You don't sit there and go, that's somewhere else. It's like you don't, even today, you don't go to the bank if you chopped your big chunk into your finger. I'm bleeding. I need to get a check cash so I could go pay for it. Yeah, you might want to go there first.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if the RVs, like I said, I never really understood that. That whole, there's an RV, you go there, you tell them what your humanitarian project is, maybe you sign up for a med bed. I'm not sure what they're referencing here, but I've heard so much different things. Some people are even asking, what are RVs? So, I mean, are RVs a part of the future once we go to the QFS
this
system?
is again somebody putting out something that's not really relevant to anything at all.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
when
sir.
we get down to it, you'll have places you can go to get on a med bed list, and they'll analyze and question and look at your medical history and who you are as a person and all kinds of things. You'll also have place you can go to, like a bank, to change over your coinage. You'll also have another place you can go to get, you don't go to the bank. You can to get a loan, but to get a grant, no. That you go to your local government, just like in Russia. You want to grow food. You go get a grant from the government. They give you the land and all of the money you need for the equipment and all that. And all your responsibility is to have either show what you're doing with it or have somebody come out, if you don't know how to do that, who will take all of the records down that you're using the money and the land you were given to grow good, healthy, organic food. That's the grants. So, or to develop a new idea, to make a patent and to market it. So you would get grants for things like that, or a humanitarian project to help, homeless or something like that. Are you doing that? That's a different program. You don't go to the bank, you go to the government. So you don't, or the hospital for that. You're mixing apples, oranges, and pears now. So they're all different. Yeah,
we've got somebody out.
Fruit.
We've got somebody out here that says RV stands for raise vibration, and that makes more sense to me than anything else at this time. Let's see here. Any other questions from you guys out there, please take your time to do this. If you enjoy this information that I'm bringing to you, please support me by hitting that like and subscribe and sharing the heck out of this information. Because you know, it's really important that at this particular time, and I'm going to ask Jean the next question for the statement I'm about to make. Jean, it seems like people are waking up. Do you agree to that? More people have woken up, and I'm basing that on it's across the board, all ages. Do you agree with that right now?
Not so much in the US and the Five Eyes, but elsewhere in the world, massively. But even in the US, yes, they are waking up. People are more. I mean, I compare it to 30 some years ago when I woke up in 1990, and then I started telling everybody, people look at me like I'm insane. They're like, you're out of your mind. Oh, small group of families runs and owns the world. Uh-huh. Sure. What are we in? Monopoly? Yep, pretty much. Yeah, so it's like yeah, more now, it I would get through, say, 1,000 people. I would hit one person that kind of had an idea of some little piece of what I was saying. Now, if I go through 1,000 people, I'll hit 200 that have a pretty decent idea of what I'm saying. They have a big chunk of it. So it's significantly more. And that has grown significantly since 911. 911 was the turning point. Within a year of 911, massive amounts of people were starting to question the narrative because, Building 7 doesn't make any sense at all compared to the narrative. So people just disregard, keep your eyes over here, don't look over there. But a whole lot of people looked over there and go, phew. And then, with warp drive or hyperdrive or whatever it is, my mind runs amok on parallels. The narrative again doesn't fit. Like you said, BS, bad science in this case. They're seeing the bad science.
I don't like that word science. I got to tell you, I think it's part of the the matrix mindset. But if we look at everything just being natural, that's all that we need to care about. Is everything on this planet was provided to us to heal ourselves, heal our minds, and we're going to get there. We're going to raise our frequency and vibrations. I've got another question. It's from Marlene Port. It says, Jean, what do you think about Europe? What's the next step here? Now, I heard Germany's got a really tough time. A lot of the other countries, from my information and my research that I just did yesterday, is they're starting to close their borders. Other countries are starting to close their borders. Have you heard that?
Well, they're definitely closing them to Russia. And that's what the cabal wants. Because if you want to create conflict, brainwash the people into, as they say in South Pacific, teach them to hate other people. But how do they hate people if they know them and they meet them and they go to their country and they see that they're kind of just like us? They have families, they love their families, they work, they do these things. Just like in World War I, when they, on Christmas Day, they had a ceasefire, and all of them got out, and the Germans and the British were talking and partying, and then later on, they had to take those troops off the battlefield because they wouldn't want to kill each other anymore. They saw that the enemy's the same as them. They're like, it's not really these people that are the problem. Must be the people that are sending those people. You're going to have both gang up and get together and go after the people that sent them. So they're going to be like waking up to the truth. That's why they're putting up the borders. It's why Project Ukraine, to get people to do that, to get them to shut their borders and be in their own little locality and say, well, it's us or them.
Another statement out here from Buckshot24, who is a huge fan of yours also. He is also my co-host from time to time. And he's basically made a statement saying the mainstream media that's still brainwashing You know, like I'll turn on for just to entertain myself. The headlines, I'll go to like Fox News and see the clown show. And I look at it and I laugh and I'm like, people don't see it the way that I'm actually seeing it. Even in my family, you know, they'll basically say, oh my God, you know, whatever. But it is the mainstream media. But right now, I think that if you guys pay a little bit closer attention to it, they're turning on Biden. Gene, I've heard that Biden may be removed one way or another, and someone else may be coming in at a sleight of hand that will continue like the next year. What do you think about that? Or you don't go there with the
Well,
political
you
stuff?
have to realize the structure of the US government. If you relieve Biden, remove him, then you got to have Kamala Harris. Unless you remove her, then you have the Speaker of the House, whoever that is at the time. I say because we keep changing it now. We're getting like England. You have a different person in there every once in a while. Not too long do they last in there. You know? So it's like whoever the Speaker of the House is moves up next. So there's a line of progression. And so it would be that you're not going to slide somebody outside that line of progression because that's against the Constitution.
Okay. I'm going to totally go a different direction here for this one question because somebody out there brought it to my attention. Now, I'm a big animal lover, like everybody else is in this world, if you will. There is something that's been going around, and it's almost like a respiratory. It has become very contagious. Something has tainted the animals. Have you heard about this, Gene?
Yeah, that's the shedding.
Oh, are you serious? It's
Yep. The shedding, the graphene stuff that's in there. I mean, it's graphene. It causes respiratory situations.
There is a YouTube channel out there, and I can't think of the vet's name. I think it's veterinarian something or other. There, he's reporting that nothing is working, and it's getting really bad. That some of them are leaving us. I do know of one family in particular that had 5 dogs. They got all of them, all the shots, if you will, and they just replaced 4 of them. So I can agree with you on that because I did see a lot of people in the beginning when they got this stuff 2 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it's been, were losing their pets. But now are there still idiots out there? You know, I've heard that there were like a total of 8 shots that people are taken. And you know, some of them are still alive, which surprises me, but now they're passing it on to the animals, and the animals get together at these, different areas, and they're just, it's contagious. It's just it's running rampant right now. And all I could say is if everybody could just do a prayer for all these pets.
Yeah, and I will say that the stuff that Jim Humble just discovered, it was out there as a water treatment.
Yes.
Work.
Can I just give you a little bit of something on that? That information there. I use that. I keep it in my refrigerator and I put it in my dog bowls. Okay. I had one hybrid dog when I adopted him on 777. He's now 17 years old. He has had fatty tumors and he's had all these things kind of growing out of him. And I think it's just hybrid breeding. Do you know that stuff that I put into their water, they're going away, Gene? I've been watching this with him. Even at 17, it seems like he has these really good days and bad days and stuff like that. But I notice these fatty tumors are shrinking on him, and I've never seen this ever. If you go to the vet, they tell you there's nothing you could do about them. You don't operate them; it's just a part of it. There's something to that Jim Hubble stuff. I'm telling you.
Yep, it does work even for any animal at all. You just go by a percentage of the adult male's body weight. That's it. It's very simple to use. We do it for our doggy girls too.
Yeah. And they just bounce back whenever for whatever reason that is. And I just use my intuition and giving it to them. I had to put down a dog for cancer, and I tried everything and it just wasn't meant to be. broke my heart. And then 30 days later, I'm watching another one. They're all senior dogs, but I'm not trying to prolong his life if it's time to go, but he just keeps bouncing back. I should have named him Lucky for the 777. But so if anybody is hearing this and you're also concerned about this respiratory thing out there, I'm not going to say much. You could actually go on Scribe and look it up, scribe.com. Jim, is it Hubble? Hibble?
Just remember, like, humble pie.
Humble pie. Okay.
Jim Humble.
Yeah, Jim Hubble. So there you guys go. There's a solution for everything. All right. So we're coming up on is it over an hour now here?
Well, we didn't start exactly on the hour.
Yeah. But what else do you want? I kind of done with all my questions here. If you wanted to talk about Israel or Hamas or anything like that, if there's anything new that you want to share with us, if anybody in the chat wants to ask any questions, please let me know. Just put a big Q in front of it and I'll try to catch it.
Yeah, some things I didn't cover with Patriot was people don't know about something called the Hannibal Directive. Hannibal had told his troops that if somebody was going to be taken, you kill them of your own people. So the IDF, part of who died, there were 1,200 Israeli killed by Hamas. 200 of the 1,400 turned out to be Hamas. They were so disfigured you couldn't tell until later on, and they could identify them like by dental records or whatever, genetic, whatever. So the IDF does have a Hannibal Directive. And they also, if you look at mainstream media, you'll know you're talking about mind control. And in regards to this, the Israelis are hostages that were taken by Hamas. And they're exchanging them for prisoners. Same thing, they're hostages. The Palestinians in prison in Israel, you either use the same word both ways or you're being played. When they're using the same different words for the same thing, you're holding somebody against their will and the will of their people. Same thing. They use children were taken or killed, or they say, in the case of Palestine, minors are people under the age of 19 years. That's the same thing. Watch when they slip the change on words on you. So the Hamas leader, Gilad Samar, who's in Gaza, is not, he's in charge there, but the primary person in charge of Hamas, that's why I said Qatar. He's in Qatar. So Quatar. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't speak Arabic. So additionally, the hot war has spilled over into the West Bank, and there's a live conflict now. We're still in the ceasefire in Gaza, but there's a live hot war in the West Bank right now. A Israel vessel has been seized, an Israeli vessel has been seized in the Eastern Mediterranean, which I find interesting also. And the Israelis have launched missiles and strikes into Syria. And in Syria, US bases, as well as in Iraq, have been hit. So it's starting to conflagrate outwards. 1,000 missiles have been sent into Lebanon and are hitting Hezbollah. And Hezbollah, hundreds of missiles. Hezbollah has fired 1,000 missiles back, and from Lebanon. So that's just a little bit of update that I didn't get, that I've learned since I was on Patriot.
Yeah, I'm honored to interview you, and I'm also going to be interviewing him, I think, next week for the very first time. I'm really looking forward to that. Good soul in my eyes.
Who are you interviewing?
Patriot Underground.
Awesome. Go Patriot.
Yes. And now we could actually put a face to his voice now, right?
Yeah, that kind of freaked me out. Like, oh my goodness.
That'll freak, like if we ever see your face, Gene, we won't believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, where's his ears?
Where's the fur?
No. All right, let's see here. I'm just going to check any more questions out there for anybody for Gene Decode. You ask him while he's here now. Well, let's see what else. Let me just double check to see if there's anything else that I put in my notes here. uh and That's interesting. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, so you made a statement and it just kind of blew my mind. Israel, I believe you said Israel is the 51st state. Did I get the number wrong?
No, 51st, there's 52.
Okay. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah. What do we always call it? We support it 100% since its inception in the get-go. What is that? It's connected to us by a treaty. That's how states come into the United States to be part of these United States through treaty. Who helped set it up? We did. Who funds it? We do.
All of our money goes there, all of our tax dollars, everything goes there. So yeah, they are hasn't it, but there's a contract that ended, right?
Yeah, and you can have dual citizenship in Israel. That's not really dual citizenship because in the Constitution you can't have dual citizenship and be a citizen of the United States. So you can't have dual citizenship, but you're there because it's the same place. You know, just like Hawaii is not part of CONUS, you know, the indigenous connected to each other states. Like, you know, it's completely separated, like at least Alaska is connected through the ground. But yeah, I guess you could say it's connected down through the bottom of the ocean ground, but you know, it's still an island. You know, it's same here.
So that's going to take me to my second question. That there's this Hamas that's out there, and who started it? Who started the Hamas? How did it come about?
Israel. They started from
so
the
every
Muslim
state
Brotherhood.
has. It's like the CCP in China or the deep state in the United States, and so Israel has their.
More like ISIS or Taliban or that, you create something from something else to create somebody to go fight for you. Just like the US did with ISIS and Taliban. The Israelis did from the Muslim Brotherhood, created Hamas.
So I also heard that the Americans have not been released. Is that just part of the shit show, or is that like I said, a political move? What do you know what the basis of that is?
Political move. You don't release your key hostages until you get what you want. They wanted to. The big thing they want is to be recognized as their own state. They want a two-state solution. Second thing they want is have their borders opened up and not be in a concentration camp anymore. And that's what happened when they got out of there. They flooded out some of the people that died in Israel because they're flooding out of there. They haven't been out since 2007. You fence in people and you abuse the bejeebers and kill them for that long. They're pissed. And a whole bunch of people come flooding over into your country that are pissed off as heck, and they've lost their son or their daughter or their wife or their husband. You're going to have some carnage, guaranteed, because you've done that to them. They're going to do it to you unless they're a pretty highly functioning, loving God person, and they've been missing that person for since 2007 or 10 or 12. That's a long time to be angry. And then they lose somebody else. And then they lose somebody else. There comes a point in a person's life when you go, no more. When you get, if they've lost everybody that they loved, now you've got somebody who has nothing to lose and they're really angry. Of course, you're going to have that situation.
Yeah, I've got a question here that you could probably add on to this. It's I think it's Kensei is saying, greetings, Gene. Why is Israel last?
Because it's the heart of the cabal's power structure. It's where their main fortress is on Earth. And it's where the Draco queen that runs the Alpha Draco on Earth is underneath there. The Alpha Draco, which is a reptilian kind of, they're a reptilian type of creature. It's about 9 to 12 feet tall, and scales and slit eyes and the whole, and vestigial wings, the whole freaking 9 yards. And they've been using humans for a very, very long time in every possible way you could think of. And then some.
Yeah, and there's a lot that we can't even think of, to be honest with you. And that's okay. We just know that, this is good, it's a war. It's a spiritual war, and God has already won. And we've been told that, but there's so much that we have to learn about ourselves. People are constantly saying, raise our vibration. And so my next question here to you is, a lot of people have faith, and a lot of people are trying to find their faith, Gene, find themselves in all of this to raise their vibration and stay at the higher frequencies, if you will, and joy and love and all that. And it's gonna get really, really tough. Do you have any words of wisdom to share?
Yes. Try to look at others, like in the Moody Blues album, The Balance, to see others and get to know other people. For example, people you don't really care a lot, and see what qualities that you value within yourself that they hold as well, what values they hold. See the good in them.
Yeah. If I could just interject here, there's over 300 people watching this right now. Can we just get a few more likes and shares? If you guys could just take the time just to support me and my channel here, and all of my moderators. Ronnie, thank you. Sunfire, thank you. Buckshot, thank you. And all my other staples out there. I just appreciate you, and I always need to say that to you. So let's see here. Gene, there's another headlines that has come out, and it's got to do with California. So authorities discovered an illegal Chinese-linked biomedical lab in Central California. And of course, we also know that a certain person from China visited California, and they only cleaned up the streets because of that. Is that just part of, well, I'll get back to that one. So going back to this illegal Chinese-linked biomedical lab, I know that the story came out months ago. What do you think about that particular headline that I just read to you? Do you feel that it's true, or if it's just more of, fear porn?
I have to research that one. I haven't done a thorough research on that.
Okay, that story came out on Gateway Pundit probably 4 months ago, and I remember reading it, and I kind of just went over it, but they found a lot of stuff in there, and now that it's come back up again, and I just thought, okay, something's going on with California, but that's okay.
When you see things that connect or don't make sense, that's when you need to take your time to really, gee, going there? That's kind of interesting. Same thing you see going on with the Elgin marbles, with the Mitsubishi going to ask Rishi Sunak like he could get permission for them to come back to Greece. Every single person does that. That's in, but wrong person to ask, because he doesn't really run anything other than a circus. He's a circus performer. Yeah, he's running the circus up there, that circus up there. So just the circus performers, not the real people running the place. So
yeah, which basically means a lot of times you're questioning it, and it's kind of like, okay, I see that, I'm not sure if I'm going to trust that, so I'm going to move on. I'm hearing more and more people that do that. And to me, they're getting in touch with their intuition. We can observe, but we don't want to absorb at all because we'll go crazy with this. If it's meant to be, the universe will send back some information to you to get your attention the second time.
But when you see something that's a bunch of statues, why are they so important? It used to be part of the Parthenon, okay?
Yeah.
What's the significance of that? That every single person's got to go up there and say to the British, give back the Elgin marbles. That's, like Mitsubishi level. Why is that? What is that? Is that a homage? And why are those statues so darn important? What about those? Is there something in them, or what they're made of, or whatever it is? So we need to realize when you're looking at something that doesn't make sense, that's when you start to need and try to research it. I've been trying to research it. It's like really, really hard to get hardly any information about them at all. That tells you it's something huge.
Yeah, they're scraping the internet.
Yep.
And I got a couple more questions that are coming in here. I want to try to, get them answered. Ruth 46 says, why was peeing here in California?
Because of what you said earlier, and also other things going on.
Okay.
He's the big part of BRICS, for one thing.
And, she's asking a second question. So she's saying, does China own California? China owns a lot.
Yeah, a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And it ought to tell you something. They're dumping their US T-bills. That ought to tell you something. They're all about investment.
In Taiwan?
The Chinese are dumping US T-bills.
Okay.
Treasury bills.
Flyme wants to know if she heard you correctly that we may go another year before the EBS.
I don't buy into the EBS the way it's being put out there. It's not relevant to me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I've always shied away from it, but so many people, that they're, if they hear that, I personally believe, and I could be totally wrong, that we do have to go another year. And we have to see the rest of the lies come to fruition so that we know everything. And I think what they're going to do is
let me interrupt you. Sorry. Giving you a solid something you can look at means you don't have to research. Yeah, just wait for that. Yep, you don't have to research what is Israel about, why is it last, what about Ukraine. I don't have to keep up with anything. I just wait for that. So they get you to not do anything. Same with the Medbed. Automatic or the grants. Automatic, bam. And that's hopium. That's what that is. Focus and learn and keep yourself updated and what's going on. Watch Patriot, watch Turning the Page, watch the people you feel resonate with you. For me, it's Brian Valetic. I love how he's and I will reiterate it, how he finishes up. If you like and find what Janine is doing is helpful for you, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. So, that's how you support people. So support the good people and stay away from the ones that you think are nasty. It's real simple. And then do your research and keep yourself updated about what's going on. So, Judge Napolitano, with Colonel McGregor, Scott Ritter, Through the Eyes, Brian Valetic, the Duran, both Alex and Alexander, and their own ones as well. Benny Show, there's quite a few really. Janine, Patriot, Underground Conservative Patriot, Colonel Bossy, Dr. If you want doctor information, Dr. Lee and Dr. Northrup, you've got a lot of really excellent people out there now in this time that we have. The Venus Twins down under, of course, Colonel Bossy down there. Tom Numbers, if you're liking the numbers thing, for me, sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming. I do some numbers, but it's after a while, I'm like, make it stop. Kind of like people do with me with PUDs. I collect PUDs, like in the movie with The Rock, they're going up the up. Mommy, make it stop. And people say with me, "Geez, stop, please, no more buds," because I collect buds. So I love buds. It's brilliant, and I even make my own up. So, but support and follow the people, and don't rest on hopium. Yeah, you can say, okay, I agree with that being as a possibility, but don't make it a hard line thing for yourself. Don't draw a line in the sand or say this is what it is, because things can always change. Timelines do. They always change. The one thing you can be sure of that will not change is things keep changing.
Definitely. I think we're getting smarter, wiser. It's just, we're just growing. All of us are growing more and more. I can tell you this, I've basically, the last 6 months, 7 months have been eating completely different. I've even put my foot down in the house, and none of that, all that stuff that they sell in the grocery stores, all the sugar stuff, we make our own. If we have a taste for sugar or whatever it is, we're cooking all of our own stuff. Do you think that the next year is going to be really, really tough on everyone? I'm not sure if I asked you that, so that'll be like my last question. And what is your perspective of, if we keep hearing about this, something is going to happen, and I don't know what it might be, something crazy that could happen to this country. Do you think that is just more of the bullshit coming down from the deep state?
For me, the last 30 years have been really tough. Especially the last 6, since I got out in the world, it's been really tough. Because I've been out in the big world where the whole world seems to know me. Seems to, I don't know. But, it's going to get harder. That could be a personal reference. What's harder for you? What if people you love are gone? What if you don't? They are already gone. Then if you get used to it, it gets easier. Everything's a reference to the individual.
Yeah, that's
Then,
beautiful that you said that. Yeah, you know what? There's times I basically have said, I'm so glad my mother's not here to see the shit show, because she would have been. I know how she would have been. I lost Gene. I know it's not ironic, but I lost a lot of family members before, up to 2017. They were all leaving. And I think that was God's plan, for the ones that were probably weaker, to not go through this. I could be wrong on that. But because they are gone, I came into my own blueprint, if you will, of who I truly wanted to be. I know that if my mother was still alive, I would have been holding back. I would not have even thought about doing a social media show. She would have not liked me doing that, but there's a reason for everything. I truly do believe that.
absolutely. And choice is absolute. And people have their choice. I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Gene, this is the end of the show, and I know you always leave us with something beautiful, and now's the time to do that. Thank you.
Think about the last 5 minutes of your life, that the next 5 minutes might be the last 5 minutes. Live your life that way so that you can look back and go, did that argument with so-and-so or that person that cut you off on the road a year ago matter at that time? Does it matter now? Then stop being that way at the time. Be who every moment of your life. Be the person you feel, and focus on what you feel is important to you, not what pulls your emotions in the moment and gets you upset. Focus on what you look back on, the moments that were dear to you, and focus on that for the rest of your life. Live each moment of your life like it's the last, but realize you may probably stay here. So do plan and do make plans and do also live like it'll continue, but treasure that which you would look back on in the moment you're in, and pay attention to where you are, what you're doing now, and keep your head on a swivel, because things are going to be changing quickly, and learn to pay attention to every little detail of what you do. And if you're with others, put your freaking phone down and pay attention to the people that you're with. Have some respect for them and yourself, because they're looking at you. You know, a lot of those people might be like me and looking at you. Are you kidding me? Well, if you don't care that much, I'll just leave. Well, thank you, and be more like God, His only begotten Son, more compassionate, more loving, more strong, and truthful and honest. Godspeed and God bless.
Thank you. My dogs are getting really excited. Tearing up my studio right now, but thank you so much. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, Bailey. Thank you, Jean, and I appreciate your time always. And thank you for the about inviting me to the Envision. I was so honored. I was speechless when you asked me, and I hope that you think of me in the near future for other projects that you have in mind. I love you.
Absolutely.
God
Thank
bless.
you for joining us. God bless.
Bye-bye.